Hi guys, I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. As you probably saw from the thumbnail, in today's episode we are talking about and reviewing the brand new installment in my favourite horror franchise, Scream 6. Just a heads up that this is a spoiler review. When I review a film, I really like to be able to talk about everything. So if you haven't seen the film yet, first of all, I would highly recommend it. Secondly, go watch the film and then come back and watch this review. Scream 6 hit theatres worldwide last Wednesday and so far has been a resounding success. On Rotten Tomatoes, it currently holds a rating of 75% and an audience rating of 93%. It has also made $44.5 million on its opening weekend alone, beating out Halloween Ends, which came out last October and made $41 million. After the success of Scream 5, also known as Scream, released in January 2022, the creative team and cast behind Scream 5 expressed interest in making more movies in the series, and in February, a sequel was greenlit. There had in fact been a plan back in 2011 to make a new trilogy, with Scream 4 kicking it off. Writer Kevin Williamson had actually created story outlines for a future Scream 5 and Scream 6, as he had done when he wrote the original Scream, but Scream 4 failed to perform as they had hoped. Compared to Scream 6's $44.5 million on opening weekend, Scream 4 only made $19.3 million. So the plans were scrapped, but with Scream 5's success, we're now getting those installments. Radio silence returned to the director's chair, and Scream 6 also saw the return of writers James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, who had written Scream 5 previously. I personally think that when the creative team remains the same and transitions from project to project, it really helps keep a continuity through them. It's perhaps one of Scream's greatest strengths and what has kept it one of the horror franchises that I think is the most consistent for quality throughout the years. Scream 6 also boasts a pretty great cast lineup. Unfortunately, we only see the return of one of the Golden Trio. Obviously, we lost Dewey in Scream 5 and Neve Campbell stuck to her guns, rightly so, in regard to the financial offer put to her, and so we didn't see Sydney this time round either. We did, however, see the return of Courtney Cox as Gail Weathers. We also have the return of the self-named Core 4 from Scream 5 in Sam, Tara and the twins Mindy and Chad Meeks. In addition to this, we have Henry Czerny, who was in another radio silence project, Ready or Not. Skeet Ulrich returns as Ghost Billy, Samara Weaving, Dermot Mulroney, the face of many a rom-com of my childhood, and the return of Hayden Panettiere as horror movie buff and Woodsboro survivor Kirby Reed. 4 survivors of the Ghostface murders leave Woodsboro behind for a fresh start in New York City. However, they soon find themselves in a fight for their lives when a new killer embarks on a bloody rampage. Okay, so let's get going and review Scream 6. First of all, the first point I want to talk about is that opening scene. Possibly the best opening scene since Casey Becker was hung from a tree. What do we think? I personally loved it. We all know the opening scene trope. Someone is tormented by the killer and then killed off, kicking off our movie's story. The opening scenes of previous Screams have never been particularly bad, but maybe a little bit samey. Scream 5 did do something new in that it had the attack victim survive, which was interesting, but I love the twist of the Scream 6 opening. As soon as I saw Samara Weaving in the opening few seconds, I knew they were going to Drew Barrymore us. Samara Weaving is a pretty big name in horror now, and so the idea of her being killed off first is slightly similar to them killing off Drew Barrymore in the opening of the original Scream. I expected her to die, but what I did not expect was that the Ghostface killer wasn't Ghostface. That was nicely done and a genuine surprise for me, so bravo Scream 6. It didn't just end there though, did it? We find out that this guy, Jason, knows Tara and also had a sidekick who was in on the plan, as most Ghostfaces do, and then finally we discover that their plan is to finish Rich's movie, tying it back to Scream 5. There was a moment where I was worried that they were continuing with the whole toxic fan aspect, which I wasn't the biggest fan of in the last film, but no. Scream 6 very quickly makes it clear that this Scream, this Ghostface, is not about fandom. In fact, it's not even about the movies, as the last thing Jason hears before he's killed is, "Who gives a f*** about the movies?" Incredible opening. I also love the little details in it, such as how Jason lived in a building named Elm, and Sidney's childhood home from the first film was also on Elm. I just want to say that despite Scream 6 not being about fandom, I do think that it has a great attitude towards and portrayal of fans. Scream 5 and Scream 6 have both given us the opposite ends of the fan spectrum. And in Scream 6, we see the obsessive, toxic aspect of it yet again in Richie with his creepy little shrine room. And we have fans like Jason and his roommate who decorate their apartment with horror memorabilia. I mean, I think we're all guilty of that. There's the painful little dig from Mindy about those fans having letterboxd profiles instead of a personality. Cut a little bit deep, that one, I'll be honest, but we also have characters like Mindy and Kirby who still have a genuine love for the genre even after what they've experienced, even after what they've been through, which I think is actually really realistic. I'm sure you guys have come across people who just don't understand why you like and why you watch horror movies. I know I have. I've even heard the "why do you watch horror when there's enough horror in the real world?" But what a lot of people don't understand is that for us, watching horror can be very cathartic and a safe space in which to confront these horrors and these fears. Why would it be any different for the characters in the film? And of course, we have the conversation in the opening scene where Samara Weaving's character is talking to her supposed date about slasher movies, and she hears how she sounds, she rolls her eyes and cringes at herself. And again, I don't know about you guys, but I experience that pretty much every time I talk to a non-horror fan in real life. Another main point about Scream 6 is how it's a recreation of Scream 2. They even highlight this within the film. Scream 5, I guess, was the original Scream. I mean, high school kids being targeted, a final girl with parent issues, and the house party finale at Stu Macher's farmhouse. And now the setting moves to college, outside of Woodsboro, and final spoiler warning, go on, leave now, you've been warned. The killer orchestrating it all is the parent of the previous killer, looking for revenge on the final girl who killed them. I don't hate this idea. In fact, it makes me really excited for the potential Scream 7. I know there is no current go-ahead or plans for Scream 7, but with these types of numbers that Scream 6 pulled, you know it's going to happen. So it makes me wonder if Scream 7 will then act as Scream 3, where what we thought we knew about the past is turned on its head. And seeing as how I have held out hope for every single Scream movie in the last 2 years, having Stu Macher as a killer, maybe he could still be the killer, but in Scream 7, and it's revealed that he was the mastermind behind it all. What we also get with these sequels being a recreation of previous films is that the new generation of characters are now naturally fitting into the role of the previous legacy characters. So we have Mindy as Randy. She's the quippy film buff who delivers us the movie roles just like her uncle Randy did before her. We then have Tara and Chad as Gail and Dewey, the love interest that develops out of the 4 survivors. And Dewey seems to have passed the torch to Chad as the new human shish kebab, where he's stabbed and wheeled off into an ambulance in every movie. Because of this pattern, I was convinced that Mindy would bite the dust, that she would be killed off just as Randy was in Scream 2, but it was set up for us to think that, and then we got the whole switcheroo where Chad was killed, but then we got his Dewey ending and he's off in the ambulance. I will say that that is something I really appreciated with Scream 6, and that is that they were able to deliver some genuine surprise twists and events, things that I didn't see coming, which I usually do. Finally, for characters fitting into a legacy role, we have Sam, our final girl. Now, Sam is an interesting one. Yes, she is the new Sydney for all intent and purposes, and when you think about it, they do share quite a lot of similarities. Both final girls in their original movie are defined by an event from their past involving a parent. For Sydney, it's the murder of her mother as a result of her promiscuousness, and the rumours that came after it. It defined how Sydney behaved with Billy and her friends and placed her in the events of the movie. While with Sam, it's the fact that her father was Billy Loomis, who also happened to be a serial killer. It defines her relationship with her sister Tara and again places her within the events of the movie. Both Sydney and Sam worry at points within the films that they're going to be the same as their parent, who were in different ways both damaged. Maureen because of what had happened to her in Hollywood, and Billy because of, I guess, abandonment issues because his mum left. But despite these similarities, Sam is, I think, a final girl in her own right. And what is interesting is how Sydney was made into an innocent victim, a fact that annoyed many future Ghostfaces. But on the flip side, Sam has been made into a monster. Yes, at the hands of the killers for plot purposes, but it's still an interesting idea. Clearly commenting on the modern day trend of cancel culture and character assassination as highlighted by one of the killers. What makes it more interesting is how in 2011 the motive of Jill Roberts was to have the same fame which Sydney experienced, assuming that she would get it just as Sydney had. But times and society changes, and now in 2023 we're showing a final girl getting the attention but being called the villain, not the victim. I don't personally love Sam as the final girl. I think she's the right one in the role as the final girl. It's just that I don't really love her. Now, I know some of you know that Sydney Prescott is my favourite final girl, and maybe you're thinking that's the reason that I don't love Sam, but it's not. Yes, Sydney is awesome, but I'm happy to see these new characters come in and make the roles their own. Okay, granted, I was right with Gail when Sam was disrespectful to Sydney in Scream 5, but that's by the by. In Scream 5, I'll be honest, Sam irritated the hell out of me, but in Scream 6, she doesn't anymore. I think that this character has found her feet a little bit more, and whether that's the writing or the performance, I can't say, but the character works better. It feels more fleshed out and lived in this time. And there are some great moments and great deliveries from her, such as when she tases a guy's crotch at the party, and when she's struggling with her connection to Billy, but also now the additional level of the fallout from the events in Woodsboro. What I do love about the character, and I really do love this, is this exploration into the darkness within Sam. In the Final Girl episode I did with Grace from Film Overload, which I'll leave a link to here if you're interested, we talked about the effect of the movie's events on the different final girls and how we don't always see what happens next. We asked the question, what if the final girl became the villain afterwards? What if the events they went through changed them too much? We've recently started to get more of an exploration into the trauma experienced by them, a la Laurie Strode and Sally Hardesty, but as far as I know from the films that I've seen, let me know if I'm wrong, we've not really had an exploration into the darkness in someone in a final girl, where a final girl is walking a fine line between being the good girl, the final girl, or flipping over and becoming the villain themselves. And in Scream 6, they ask, is Sam a killer by nature just because of who her dad is? Did she enjoy killing Richie? And this really interests me because I'm not interested in 2D characters who are either just good or just bad, because humans tend to have both, good and bad in them. We're complex beings, and horror movies should explore this. They're the genre that can be used to reflect contemporary fears and current values of society, and so they should also portray our final girl as a complexity, as a more fleshed out human. I think that overall Scream 6 does a really good job at character representation. You have so many strong female roles in this film, in Sam, as we talked about, and in Tara, Mindy, Gail, and Kirby. All of them use their own individual strengths to help within the situation. And I love how Kirby says that she joined the FBI because she didn't want to be afraid of the monsters anymore. She wanted the monsters to be afraid of her. Absolutely love that. But you also have really strong male roles. I mean, Cute Guy respects Sam when she says he can't come with them because she can't fully trust him. He accepts that, but also sends some help just in case she needs it. And Chad intervenes when Tara is heading off with Dodgy Guy 101. And again, it's a nice natural progression of his interest in Tara. He's not pushy with it. I also think that they did a better job of writing Gail this time. This felt like the Gail of old, and there were some great little Easter egg callbacks, like Tara punching Gail, as Sydney had done. Gail saying nice try, sweetie, like Tatum saying nice whelp, sweetie in the original, and Gail also repeats her line from Scream 2, I just want to catch this Gail has always been a writer and a reporter. It's what drives her character, and so it makes sense that she did write a book on the events from Scream 5. But Gail has also grown so much through the Scream movies, and she cares very genuinely and very much about people like Sydney and Dewey. And the pain from the loss of Dewey is very evident here. Yes, she has a new boyfriend, she's moved on, but he's so insignificant that we don't even really see his face, and he's killed off very quickly. And Gail's reaction to his death says it all. All she does is agree with Ghostface that all his muscles didn't help him in the end. This character of Gail is not one to pine or sit around, but she's not heartless either, and I think that I like her role more here than in Scream 5. Scream 6 is just respectful to the Scream franchise all round. I mean, we had the reappearance of Red Right Hand and Trouble in Woodsboro, ones that weren't used in Scream 5. Dewey's theme, just to punch us in the gut, and all the links to Scream 2 that are mentioned and highlighted throughout. And of course, the incredible Scream Shrine Room, which is off the freaking chain. I mean, okay, it's a little creepy, but so much fun for us as an audience as we get to look out for and spot all the little references to previous movies. I also just want to mention, it's not really anything to do with Scream 6, but it is to do with nods to and links to previous movies. So on this latest rewatch of the Scream films, I noticed something in Scream 3 that I hadn't noticed before, on all the hundreds of rewatches of that film. Anyway, I noticed that Detective Mark Kincaid has a thing for Sydney. He's got a little crush on her. And in Scream 5, Sydney is married to a guy called Mark. So, that's got to be Mark Kincaid, right? Let me know in the comments what you think. Okay, so let's talk about the man of the hour, Ghostface. This Ghostface is different to all previous versions. This one uses a gun for one thing, which has never been seen before. This Ghostface is just overall more violent and more aggressive. Gone are the days of the clumsy Ghostface tripping over and having stuff thrown at him. Ghostface has always chased his victims, but there's something about this one that when he's coming for you, he's really coming for you. I loved the idea of this Ghostface killer leaving a previous killer mask at the scene of each attack, and the fact that it was counting backwards. Each killer was referenced, and I do love that about Scream. It's always been really good at keeping a continuity in the franchise's timeline. It doesn't ignore parts or rewrite parts. It acknowledges every single killer and every new twist or added detail to the story. And with a more intimidating Ghostface, we also got some absolutely spectacular kill scenes. They were really well executed and genuinely tense, for me personally. The scene where they're climbing over the ladder to Cute Guy's apartment and Gail's attack scene both had me on the edge of my seat. They were so tense, especially, well, no, they both were, but the one on the ladder really got me. I think the reason why the one with Gail was so tense was because, they built it up that no one was safe. We'd seen Dewey had gone, and they said again in this one, no person, no character is safe. So I genuinely did not know if Gail was going to survive or not. And apart from Dewey's death scene, which I can't rewatch anymore, it's been a while since I felt that tense from a Scream kill scene. So I enjoyed that. Scream 6 may also be the goriest film so far. Previous films have always been gory in concept, but often hidden off screen or only quickly glanced at. This has many a lingering shot of knives twisting in mouths and guts and all sorts of places. One of my favourite kill scenes was Chad's. He survives, but at the time it was a kill scene. I didn't like that it was Chad being attacked because I quite liked the pairing of him and Tara, but holy crap. The image of two ghost faces together was incredible. This is another thing we've not seen before. They've been partners in crime, yes, but they've not killed as a team before in full costume. And the image of them together and moving in an almost synchronized way, it might sound daft, but it really made me think of sharks for some reason, or like a pack of animals. It made it scarier somehow. It also reminded me, I don't know if it's just me, but it reminded me of the T-Rex scene in Jurassic Park: The Lost World and the Mako sharks in Deep Blue Sea. Probably just me. But from this scene, it quickly went downhill in my opinion. I mean, I know the killer reveals aren't always great in Scream. Often people just aren't happy with them, especially when it's characters like Billy's mum, who we didn't even know was an option in the film, or Roman, who, we hadn't seen for half an hour before the reveal. But with this, I think this is the absolute worst one we've had in the whole franchise. I mean, I didn't like Richie and Amber, but my God, they are so much better than this one. Originally, I thought it was going to be Kirby, or at least Kirby would be one of the ghost faces. I think I even mentioned it in my trailer reaction video, but as the movie progressed and it became clear that they really wanted you to think it was Kirby, it just became too obvious, so I thought, well, it's clearly not going to be her. But at least that would have been much more interesting than what we did get. What we got was 3 killers, again, something new. But one of those was a lad that I completely forgot existed. As soon as he wasn't on the screen, I forgot he was even in the movie. So that was just lame. And then as soon as we knew that he was Detective Bailey's son, it was obvious that Quinn was the other killer and that they had faked her death. And Quinn wasn't exactly an exciting character in herself. All her character plot or development seemed to be was that she slept with her boyfriend a lot. The only interesting one to me was Detective Bailey. He had been an interesting and likeable character to watch throughout the film as it was. And his motive reveal was actually quite good. I mean, better than the other two. He's a parent who was completely deluded to what his son actually was, and who probably added fuel to the fire by indulging him. And for me, it was also fun having Dermot Mulroney as the bad guy because he's usually the love interest. Looking back though through the film, I should have figured out it was him after the hammy acting he did after finding his daughter's supposed murdered body, and how he was then willing to throw his career away just to commit murder. Although I guess the protectiveness of parents. Despite the killer reveal being lackluster, let's say, the actual setting of the final showdown was it was perfect. Our villains and heroes facing off, surrounded by items from past villains and heroes. I mean, it's almost perfect. And Sam and Tara were a couple of heroes to be absolutely reckoned with. I can't wait to see what they do with these characters in the next installment, which I'm sure there will be. I also really enjoy the setting of New York. Now, I know they didn't film in New York, I believe it was Montreal, but they did a good job of really making me believe that's the setting, and it added to the darkness and almost became claustrophobic. I think it also gave it some really good sets for the scenes. Again, the one with the ladder moving from apartment building to apartment building, and I wasn't a huge fan of Mindy's attack scene in the subway, but I did love all the different Halloween costumes, and it did again make it feel very claustrophobic, the idea that there was no escape, there was no way out, so I did enjoy that. So there you have it, guys, my thoughts on Scream 6. Let me know what you thought to the film in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you figure out the killers? Did you like the killer reveal? I'm not 100% sure what my next episode will be. I think it may be an updated ranking of the Ghostface killers, but either way, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out whatever it is. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye, guys.